Next Generation Curriculum, Data and AI. Please welcome Ryan Tannenbaum.
Thank you. Hey everyone, nice to see you. I know it's been a long day. I want to talk about kind of what I do. Everyone's been talking about AI. I called this Next Generation AI because David put me on the spot one day. I had to come up with the name really quickly. But what do I really want to focus on today? I want to talk about getting past like this really quick pitch that we're seeing from so many different companies about how AI is going to be like spectacular and really transformative. It is, but what are the questions that we as a school need to ask to responsibly bring AI into our organization? And I want to give you some like really concrete and deeper examples that I think are really interesting and kind of shocking about where and what AI can do. So what is For Education? That's my company. I'm based in Busan. I'm a little tiny company. I work with schools all around the world, mainly with schools data. So if you're using ManageBack or OpenApply, Veer across PowerSchool, or a lot of other platforms, I help schools pull that data, look at it, do analytics, integrations, and a lot of other work. But what else is made out of data? Well, AI. So I do a lot of work with AI as well. One of my big interests is looking at like, how could we use AI really deeply with the school data? So I'm working with a school in Beijing where what we're doing is we're pulling the units, the assessments. So we have the assessments. We can see the standards that are addressed. We pull the student work and we say, does this student work actually meet these standards? And it can come up with a report for our different assignments that says, look, you meant to assess this, but it doesn't look like you really targeted these skills. We can also look at like different assessments so that when there's a push to bring in ATL skills, like research skills, you can say, well, like, given my curriculum, where do you think there's a good insertion point for these type of explicit ATL assessments in our curriculum? So we kind of do things like that. So just because I know we've been here for a long time, I want to just keep everything moving forward. What I really wanted to talk about today, because I think it's interesting, and why not have talk about things that I find interesting, is how do we make educated decisions about how we bring AI into our schools? So like a lot of different platforms online, they say, hey, we're going to help you do assessment. I think like that's a kind of controversial topic. Like, do we bring in AI for assessment? I want to show you guys some questions where like if a company says that, yeah, I can mark your student work. What are the questions you should ask? Because just like if you're in leadership and you're hiring a teacher, you're not going to hire some random person to mark your students. You know, work, you're going to have experienced educators who understand the subject, understand how to help students grow. How can we start to make decisions like that about the type of products we bring into our school? So we'll talk about grading students. And how are we going to do this? We're going to take a piece of student work. We're going to give it to AI. We're going to see like what grade does it give it. And then we're also going to provide it with different rubrics and see if like that affects it. So I'm not a very good PPT maker. I'm a designer and a developer. So I build websites. So I have a website that I built for this, just to kind of look at things. And we're going to be using ChatGPT. And we're going to be doing something a little bit different. This is something you can do with ChatGPT, but I rarely see companies doing it, where we can ask it to tell us how probable, how likely was it to choose that word. Because the way these systems work is they say, you know, tell me about Dwight School Seoul, and it's going to give us a bunch of words, and like we can click on these words in this, and we can see that the Dwight, or like this first DW, there was a 100% chance that it was going to say that because it's going to talk about Dwight School Seoul. But over here where it says global, it's in red, it might have said global. It might have started like just with Dwight. It wouldn't have put the adjective before that. And then that's how it's going to predict what words it's going to say next. So we can actually get an idea of like how confident it is in what it's going to say. You can see it kind of going in different directions. So here, like where it says international baccalaureate, it might have said inquiry. You know, like that was the next likely one. Like they teach an inquiry-based curriculum. You know, it's kind of got a similar meaning. But if we're going to move this like a little bit more forward, like what is the most enjoyable city in Korea? It said Busan, but like it could have said Seoul. You can see like that first token, SE, there was a 22% chance that it might have come up with that instead, and then it would have said Seoul. So why is this important? Well, when we're looking at like student assessment, so over here, I have some work. I said, you are an MYP teacher. Mark this work out of 8. It gave it a 6. And I can actually look and see like the confidence of its assessment. 95% confidence that it's going to give it a 6. That's pretty robust and strong. But what I did was I just gave it the work and I said, mark this out of 8. I didn't give it a criteria. Here I pasted in like the MYP criterion C, language and literature curriculum, and I said, here's the rubric, mark this work out of 8, and it gave it a 5. It gave it a lower mark with less confidence. So that's interesting. Wow, I've just given it the rubric, it's actually made it less confident and given a different response. If we go even further, like over here, I give it the MYP criteria and some like unit descriptions. I click generate a response. Let me get rid of my name here. Sorry, I was putting this together beforehand. And I believe it'll come up with a 4 when I've given it different criteria. So apologies. Previously, I gave it an assignment description. Over here, I gave it the MYP criteria. And what it did was it gave a very unconfident 4. There's like a 55% chance here that it would give it something else. I mean, if I wanted this to give it a slightly better mark, I could say the student's name is David Burke. And that can actually change it because we can see that like there's such a thin threshold between a 5 and a 4 on its assessment that the AI, and this is GPT-4o, might change its mark. So you can see David got a 5 because it's David, of course. But like this AI doesn't know anything about David. So what am I trying to show you? I'm trying to say that these companies that are selling you these things do have the ability to see the confidence of the assessment. And it's true, like maybe this is sitting on that borderline between a 5 and a 4, who knows? But why isn't it reporting that range? Why, you know, what kind of consistency are we getting? Because if I do bring a product like this into my school, I want to be able to say that because it's David getting assessed, it's not gonna get a higher mark than Ryan, just because for some reason the names trigger it a little bit differently. Also over here, like I'm using GPT-4o mini, but if I switch the model to like the latest GPT and I click generate, it's gonna give it a 5. Sorry, sometimes it'll give it like a 3. It'll be different, depending on the models that we choose. My point is, these systems can be unpredictable, but there's a ways for us to interpret that unpredictability. There's ways for us to ground it. There's also ways for us to like take it and say, how do I align this with like what my teachers are going to assess? Because my teachers also have their own ideas about these assessments and things that they're assigning to their students. So rather than us looking at AI as this magical transformative thing, I think it's really important that we start asking questions about how AI gets brought into our school with effective pedagogy, with accountability towards these different systems. And so that's kind of what I do. That's at least very especially where my interests lie right now, more as like an exploratory thing. If you'd like to get in touch with me, that's my email up there. I wanted to keep it really short. I hope it was interesting. Thank you, everybody. Yeah. Yeah. Sure.